Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. We're doing something a little different this week. We're continuing the 5 Things series. Today is day 3. 5 things to get to know me, or 5 things that had an impact on me, or I don't know, five things. Today, 5 books. 5 books to get to know me. And I'm going to cheat because the first one's like 15 books. And that is the Encyclopedia Britannica. Growing up, I did not have a whole lot of friends. I did not have a whole lot of. We were poor-ish. Like, you know, we weren't poor, but we lived poor. I wasn't, I didn't. I had toys, but I didn't have the latest thing. I had clothes, but I didn't have. My clothes got me bullied. I got made fun of a lot for all of that sort of stuff, and so I didn't have a broad social life. So I retracted, and I did a lot of, I did a lot of self-soothing and a lot of self-play, and I did what I had to do, right? And my parents had a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas from like the 60s or 70s. It was an old set, and I read them front to back, and I think that reading those books just opened my world. Like, literally taught me things that no school was going to teach me, but taught me to love learning because I just was fascinated by all the information that was in those books. And I just dreamed of a day when I could have an encyclopedia that could cover everything. And now I have it, right? It's right here. I could type the question and I have the answer, like, immediately. And so the encyclopedias put me on a path. And I think that they sparked a curiosity that has maintained itself all these years. So that's a cheat. The second book is also a cheat because it's not really a book, but it is I have a physical volume called The Complete Works of Edgar Allan Poe. And I love Poe. I loved Poe from the moment I heard The Raven for the first time. I don't remember if I discovered Poe because of The Raven or Telltale Heart. One of those two. I think it was maybe Telltale Heart, now that I'm saying this. And was immediately fascinated with the man and started trying to seek out all of the books that I could find at the libraries. This was a time when I couldn't just go get a book. And read and studied everything he'd ever written. And I started emulating his writing. I have a whole lot of short stories that I wrote just in his voice because I loved that he could tell a quick little horror story in a couple of pages that made you go, "Oh, that was cute." I've learned, though, through trying to do writing over the past 5 or 10 years or whatever, that he didn't have the best narrative structure. But I guess the point, I didn't care. Like, I loved his work. Next up is a book in the Dragonlance series of books. These were books that were published by TSR long ago, Dungeons and Dragons, and they had a series called Heroes, I think, or Legends, or something like that. And one was called The Legend of Huma, and Huma was a knight, and that became a dragon rider. And this is the first book that made me cry. It was fascinating. I don't know why. It was a very engaging story. There were elements of that story that I literally started to draw, and I started drawing parts of that story, iconography from that story, and I turned it into almost my own thing that I drew for years and years of my life. I carried a whole lot of that book around with me for a long time. I honestly haven't read it in probably 30 years, and I don't really remember it, but I remember it having such a profound impact on me that I had to put it on the list. There are other books that I could easily say The Hobbit was the same. Like, The Hobbit had a massive impact on my life. But I chose The Legend of Huma because it is, in some ways, it gave me a little bit more information about what it was to be kind of knightly, or to be just. I think I learned a little bit about that. Okay. This one's dumb for a lot of different reasons, but it's the dictionary. You know this silly thing we do? When I found this 1,200 words you should know to sound smart, I got excited about it. Uh, I've always loved words to the point that I have read the dictionary multiple times. Just sat and read the dictionary because I loved learning new words. Very much like the encyclopedia, at a young age, I wanted to know the words. And so I read the dictionary cover to cover multiple times. Didn't retain a whole lot of it, but I read it. And I think that it really, much like reading the encyclopedia, it opened me up to learning in a way that school never could. It just couldn't. And it in some weird way taught me that there's always more than one way to say something, and there's always more than one way to do something, and I think that's what it is to be human, right? I think that taking words from that book and combining them in various ways to say the same thing is what makes individuality, it is what makes us individuals. It, it, I don't have an explanation. I can just tell you that it had a huge impact on me. Okay, and the last one is another fantasy book called the Royal, Royal Assassin. Yeah, this is a part 2 of a trilogy, the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. The book 1 is called Assassin's Apprentice, and book 2 is called Royal Assassin. Book 2, I told Robin Hobb when I met her and had her sign the book, that is the best fantasy book I've ever read. I stand by that. It is the book that I have personally connected with the most. I think that it hurt me the most. It gave me the most joy. It showed me a reflection of myself I'd never seen before. It did a whole lot. And the interesting part about it is I did not like the book 1 of that series. I thought it was just bad. But book 2 broke me. It was so fascinating. Such an amazing book that it more than redeemed book 1, and I continued to read the series. I continued to read Robin Hobb's books, and I love everything she's ever written. But Royal Assassin, fascinating. What's your favorites, or what impacted you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is solidarity. It is a noun meaning bonding of people to others because of shared interests, beliefs, goals, or attitudes. It was the middle-class female solidarity defending a nice girl from charges of calculation and viciousness. Saul Bellow, an American author. Solidarity, Solidarity. I think, again, so like so many words in this book, that is not an uncommon word at all.